Hi, I'm Barry Gilreath, your host for The Fabric of Family. We're talking about today movies, videos, and CDs. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, what does that have to do with the family? But I think that if we stop and think about it very long, we understand that it has a great impact. And so I have with me today two guests who are going to help me discuss this very important subject, Chad Dollahite and Shane Robinson. Brethren, thank you for being with us today. And I want to address our first question to Shane. Shane, should a parent even have any concern over what their children hear or are seeing through the entertainment world?
Without a doubt, yes. A parent should have a concern about what their child is seeing, watching. Music, television, video games, videos have a real subtle way of affecting our society today. Sex sells is a good motto for the communication world and videos and movies and different things. We can have our children subtly affected or changed by some of the more regular shows and different things. Let me give you an example. Will and Grace was a popular TV sitcom a few years back, which surrounded a female who had two homosexual friends. It was a comedy. If a child were to watch that, or even if a parent, it's possible that over time that we may have our minds or our feelings change to homosexuality. We may think, well, hey, they're born like that. It's all right. People on TV have fun because they're homosexual. They're funny or something like that. And not trying to categorize sin, but that's just one of the examples of how maybe we can be affected. A real craze in today's society is reality TV. And a lot of that, you have people who are, let's say, showing or trying to have a mate, bachelor or something like that, and so they have a period of time, and throughout this 10-week period, you have girls or men who are dropping in and out and maybe having sexual relations outside of marriage. And so as time progresses, as we watch different shows like that, most TV shows today have some kind of form of sexual relation outside of marriage, fornication. And over time, we may be able to be subtly changed in our attitude and our outlook towards that because, hey, everybody does it.
You touched on a very fascinating thought there concerning the influence that the media has had upon families in general. You think about, as an example you use, some of the things that we see on the television today where adultery is obviously what is being implied by various relationships. And if a parent were to walk into their living room and were to literally see two people that they didn't know engaging in some type of adulterous relationship right there in their living room, I imagine they would call the police. But how many of our parents, when they walk into that living room and see their children watching that program, dismiss it as something innocent? I think it just goes to show how that our value systems have changed. And I'm not just talking about in the world in general, but even within the church. Chad, was it not too many years ago, before your time and mine, that the world was shocked, or America was shocked, when that curse word was said on the movie Gone with the Wind? And now you think about that word that was said and how many would think nothing at all about that. And it just goes to show how our value system is changing. A very important subject we're talking about today, but Chad, is it even possible to monitor what our children are hearing or what our children are seeing on various media products?
Well, sure, and going back to what you were saying, I remember growing up hearing my dad and my mom talk about Gone with the Wind and how, I can't think of the actor's name now, Clark Gable. My dad told me, says, he had read up on that, and it took them forever to get him to agree, even to the one swear word in the movie. And of course, as you said, it just shocked America to hear it. Now it's just nothing. A couple of years ago, or it might have even been last year, the 2007 Family Matters retreat that we often go to in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, put on by several sound congregations of the Lord's Church. Kyle Butt, who works with Apologetics Press, was talking about this, and it's interesting. Don't have all the material here with me, of course, right now, but an interesting research for parents to look at the guidelines that Hollywood kind of had for itself back 30, 40 years ago, and see what they have to say about using bad language, glorifying immorality and things like that, and see how far they've come away from their own standards that they wrote not all that long ago. But your question, is it possible to monitor what our children are watching or listening to? It absolutely is. One of the things that I really encourage parents to do is to get the television out of the child's room. That you can go to worldly sources and they will tell you that's one of the worst things you can do for a child. Have a family television, and that's not to say that there just has to be one television in the house. I kind of prefer that there just be one in the house, but if there is more than one, it often is so bad. I know families that have 5-year-olds with a television in a room. Say, well, it helps them fall asleep. Children don't. That's not a good thing for a child to have that television in there. And studies have proven that. I mean, we're not talking. These are just preachers trying to be too strict. This is scientific studies have proven that that's not good for children. So one of the best ways that you can monitor what is my child seeing is to have a television that is out and open for everyone to see. Know what they're listening to. You can you don't have to engage in spying and things like that, just to say, hey, what are you listening to? What CDs are in your collection? Things of that nature.
I think we're talking about parents taking a more proactive approach to parenting.
Absolutely.
Rather than just sitting back and letting their children run on automatic pilot, actually getting involved more in the lives of their children. And you think about the power of the media, and one great example of that are commercials. Commercials are evidence that there is power through the media. Millions and millions of dollars would not be spent by these companies whose bottom line is to make as much money as they can and hold on to as much money as they can through the process, if it were not the case that these things brought them more and more revenue. We're watching. We're taking note of what's on our television. Shane?
A lot of things that go on within the television in a child's life. Some studies show that from the time a child is born to the time he or she turns 18 years old, they will spend some 15,000 hours behind a classroom. The same studies show that a child from the age of birth till the age of 18 will spend some 18,000 hours behind the television. You may even throw into the mix how many hours a child from birth to the age of 18 would spend in Bible class. Some 1,400 hours, if they attended every worship service or every Bible class service. A big consideration in the time behind the television. Many kids today come straight home from school, get into their bedroom, which is, I agree with Chad, a big no-no. It's hard to really.
Let's explain the federal ratings, various products. The federal government rates video products, right? They rate television, right? What are these ratings all about? I mean, you see sometimes TVG. What is that, Shane?
Well, federal ratings for television, you have about 6 that you see, and each you'll have a TVY, which stands for TV Youth. It's appropriate for all ages, as the federal regulations state. TV 7, that would be unsuitable for children under the age of 7. TVG, that is the general audience, probably Price is Right, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, something like that. Then you have TV PG. This would be something that would be unsuitable for young children. Most game shows, most reality shows and sitcoms fall into the category of PG. TV 14, many programs after 9 p.m. fall under the rating of TV 14, which would say unsuitable for children under 14, which in a Christian setting, I would maybe say that that would be something that you would really consider whether or not. And sort of a sidebar, underneath these ratings that you will see on your television screen on most programs, you will see a TV 14, and underneath that you may see V or S, and that would really explain violence, sexual content, language, or something like that.
So if I, as a parent, reference these ratings before I allow my child to see something, that would then guarantee me that my children are not going to see anything that I don't want them to see?
No, I would not. I would disagree with that strongly. You take, for example, the movie rating. I just gave you the TV. You have G, general audience, PG, parental guidance, PG-13, no child under 13, R, which means restricted for anyone under the age of 17 unless accompanied or given the permission of an adult. Then you have NC-17. Personally, I would have a strong screening for a PG-13 movie for my child as a Christian. Now, the federal government may say that that's okay. PG-13 has sexual scenes. It allows a lot of language. It allows a lot of violence. It allows a lot of different things that I would not agree with. Even PG movies, I would even say that you may want to do some screening, especially in modern day cartoon style movies. They have subtle words that they use, slang words. Also, they may use curse words.
And even if a movie, for example, is rated G, that doesn't necessarily mean there's not going to be any objectionable material in that movie. We need to remember who's producing these things. And for the most part, it's Hollywood. And the values of those who are producing these things are not always going to be in line. In fact, most of the time, they're not going to be in line with what Christians would want their children to see and to listen to. Now, we've talked about videos, we've talked about movies, TV, but what about CDs?
Well, most of your CDs do not have the detailed as a television show, a movie, or a video game. But your CDs, really the main thing that you would want to look for would be the parental advisory sticker. And if you see this on any CD, which if I am correct, Walmart, Target, stores like that will not sell a parental advisory CD. I would always recommend a CD, the clean version. However, if a CD was originally mastered with the parental advisory sticker, the content on there and themes, even without the cuss words, it probably would not be suitable for a Christian.
Well, Chad, are there any resources that Christian parents can look to help them to make some informed decisions about some of these things we're talking about today?
Sure, there's there are websites, several websites that are out there that you can go to find out about them. I mean, Shane made a really good point. PG-13, it just sometimes it doesn't mean anything necessarily. It used to be that PG meant you could take children, you just need to be might want to be careful. But now it might be a lot of cussing and swearing in the movie and still get a PG rating. I remember about 10 years ago, it was a big thing when I was in preaching school, a big stir about a particular movie that came out, and it had a topless scene in it, and it was just rated PG-13. And everybody was just shocked at how that managed to get a PG-13 rating. Well, that kind of thing. But there's one website I've used in the past is Screenit, www.screenit.com, and that's SCREENIT.com. And that
we're not
website,
endorsing that, but we're referencing it
right, just as a reference.
Yeah.
And they will actually break down a movie and tell you how many times the Lord's name is taken in vain, how many times this particular word is used, that particular word is used. And so you can see even a movie might be rated PG, but it's filled with some profanity. I get emails from Parents Television Council, the PTC they're sometimes called. They have a lot of good material for reviewing movies. and again, not necessarily an endorsement, just as a reference tool. One of the best things I have seen come around, we have it in our home, is something called a TV Guardian. And it is a machine that it's an external device, but it basically reads the captioning of programs. You have to have captioned programs for it to work.
Closed captioning.
Closed captioning. And it will read the closed captioning ahead, and if it determines a cuss word, God's name used in vain, a slang word that you don't want, it will mute the audio when that word comes around in the dialogue, and then replace it on screen with something that is clean, or you can just have it mute the word, period. But that is a wonderful tool, and you don't realize it. I thought when we first got ours as a Christmas present that I would hate it. I thought, it's going to be taking out parts of television programs. I won't be able to stand this. We got it, and to this day, when I go to somebody's house that does not have one, and I sit, maybe just a sitcom comes on television or something, I cringe, because it is amazing how many times our most holy and high God's name is taken in vain on television that I never realized before until I got this. And now I go and I hear it, and I just, you just cringe because you never realized it before how frequently it was. But that has been a wonderful tool for our home to clean up the television on some of these things, like just network television, on some of the profanity that's used even on network television.
I'm familiar with that product, TV Guardian, and I believe that if any of the parents are watching today and would like to research that some more, I believe they have a website actually. You can type that in on a search and should be able to locate it. I think I've even seen the product maybe at some of the big retailers such as Walmart or Kmart, so that might be a resource for parents as well. Are there certain kind of genres when we think about the music industry that you would say are better than others?
I'm not as much of a fan of music as I once was, and that really is an opinionated question. There are different things that maybe, let's say country music, for example. Country music has changed a lot, even in the last 5 years. Now, maybe what someone who is over the age of 50, and they may remember older country music style, it's nothing compared to country music today. Our music industry is really evolving in different ways. I guess maybe I'm kind of weird. I like music without words or music with words only. My CD is either with mostly singing or preaching in my CD player at home and also in my vehicle, but also I like to listen to a lot of classical music. And so if I could say yes to that question about different genres being better than the other, I would say classical because you really don't have much talk in it.
Well, it's certainly true. As parents, we need to be mindful of these things, and we need to know what our children are listening to, what they're watching, because they are being subjected to so much today that it's easy to take the approach of the ostrich who sticks his head in the ground when he thinks there might be danger around. He sticks his head in a hole in the ground. But as parents, we can't do that. We have got to realize that we have a responsibility to raise these children up in the nurture and the admonition of the Lord. I want to thank both of you for being with us today and talking about this very, very important subject concerning the effect that the media has upon us as parents, but also more so on our children. And we need to remember the importance of protecting our children in these things. I want to close the program by asking Chad if he would maybe just to share a quick Bible verse with us that would have application to what we're thinking about today when we think about music and video games and TV and movies and these sorts of things. Chad?
What always comes to my mind when we talk about this is Philippians 4:8. Paul writes, "Finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue and if there be any praise, think on these things."
Thanks, Chad. Thanks, Shane. And thank you for being with us on The Fabric of Family. Until next time, I'm Barry Gilreath, wishing you a great day.
Speech on. Timer. Button. Selected. Screen recording.